Here's something most retirees never see coming. The biggest financial risk in their life isn't a scam call, and it isn't a bad stock market day. It's a single line on a bank form they signed years ago, a form that quietly handed away legal ownership of their savings without them ever realizing it. One woman almost lost her entire nest egg over it, and she didn't find out until a stranger's debt collector came looking for her money. Welcome back to Retirement Guide, the channel where we break down the confusing parts of retirement finances so you can protect what you've spent a lifetime building. If that sounds useful to you, go ahead and hit subscribe, because these rules shift more often than most people realize, and the bank isn't going to send you a warning. Today we're talking about something a huge number of retirees do without thinking twice: adding someone else's name to a bank account. It feels like a small, kind gesture. In reality, it can completely change who legally owns that money and who else can get their hands on it. Let's walk through 3 different situations that show how this plays out. Meet Diane, a stand-in for a common situation many retirees face. After losing her husband, Diane wanted her adult son to be able to help pay her bills if she ever got sick. A bank employee suggested the simplest fix: just add him as a joint owner. Diane didn't think much of it. Life went on. A couple of years later, her son's small business got tangled in a legal dispute, and a court ordered him to pay a debt. Because he was a legal co-owner of his mother's account, that account became something creditors could go after, even though the money had come entirely from Diane's own savings and Social Security payments over decades. This is the part that catches people off guard. Once money sits in a jointly owned account, courts generally don't separate his dollars from her dollars. The whole balance can be treated as fair game, regardless of who actually deposited it. Next is Walter, a retired engineer. A few years after a divorce, Walter started a new relationship and wanted to show commitment, so he added his partner to his checking account, the one that received his pension and Social Security. He viewed it as a gesture of trust. What he didn't fully consider is that a joint owner has full, independent access to every dollar in the account, no requirement to ask permission, no rule limiting them to their half. Nothing improper happened on his partner's part. But she had pre-existing debt from before they met, and when a creditor came after her, the shared account became entangled in that situation too. Untangling it took time, paperwork, and legal help that could otherwise have been avoided. There's another wrinkle worth knowing. If a joint account holder later goes through a divorce, that account can sometimes become part of the assets reviewed in the divorce proceedings, even if most of the money never belonged to the new spouse or partner. This isn't a guaranteed outcome in every case, and how it's treated can vary by state and circumstance, but it's a possibility couples rarely think about when they simply want to combine finances. Finally, meet Grace, a retired small business owner who spent decades successfully running her own shop. As she got older, she hired someone to help with errands and small purchases, and to make things convenient, she added that helper as a joint account owner. For a while, everything looked fine. But because a joint owner has legitimate access to the entire account, not just what's needed for groceries, a pattern of unauthorized feeling withdrawals went unnoticed for months, until a family member happened to spot irregular activity on a statement. Recovering the money afterward became a difficult and time-consuming process, and not all of it was recoverable. Grace's experience is a reminder that this kind of situation doesn't require anyone to be careless or unintelligent. It can happen to people who've successfully managed money and businesses for decades. Across all 3 situations, the common thread is the same. Adding someone as a joint owner isn't just giving them permission to help, it legally makes them a co-owner of every dollar in the account. That distinction is often glossed over at the bank counter, mainly because a joint account is the fastest, simplest box to check on a form. There are other account structures that exist specifically to separate helping someone from co-owning their money, for example, authorized or convenience signers, powers of attorney, and payable-on-death or transfer-on-death designations. Each works differently, has different legal effects, and isn't right for every situation. That depends on your specific goals, state law, and personal circumstances, which is exactly the kind of thing a licensed financial advisor or an estate attorney can walk you through. One more detail worth being aware of: adding someone as a joint owner on an account or property can also affect how that asset is taxed later, including something called a stepped-up basis, which can influence the tax bill an heir eventually faces. This varies by situation, and it's worth a real conversation with a qualified professional rather than a general rule of thumb. None of the people in these stories were careless. They were being kind, practical, or trusting, the same instincts most of us have with the people we love. But the name on a bank account isn't just a formality. It's a legal decision, and it's worth understanding exactly what it means before signing. If this made you think twice about an account you've already set up, it might be worth a conversation with your bank or a licensed advisor to understand your options. This video is for informational and educational purposes only. It was created using AI-generated narration and does not constitute financial, legal, or tax advice. Rules and account structures can vary by bank, state, and individual circumstances. Please consult a licensed financial advisor, estate attorney, or tax professional before making any decisions about your accounts or retirement finances. If you found this useful, hit subscribe so future videos like this find you. And if you know someone who's added a name to their bank account without thinking too hard about it, consider sharing this with them. It could save them a real headache down the road. Drop a comment and let me know. Did any of this surprise you?